Do you know what this creature is? Because flipping through the monster manual, to me, it just looks like a dwarf with a flame mane. I've been playing D&D for many years, and I have never once stopped to read this guy's block of text. The artwork just looks a little goofy to me. I doubt anyone watching this video has actually used one of these guys in one of their campaigns. And if you have, please let me know in the comments below. I'd be interested in hearing about it. All this to say, you'd be forgiven if you don't recognize the 𝐂𝐨𝐧𝐭𝐚𝐜𝐭. This is the final A monster in our epic conquest to print and paint every monster in the D&D monster manual. So let's take a look at the model I'm going to be painting. So this is the 𝐂𝐭𝐳𝐴 model I ended up going with. I actually had a pretty tough time finding a model that I liked. These guys aren't super popular, so it seems, but I found this model from 𝐂𝐴 on my mini factory, and it's completely free. I did have a bit of a failure with this guy when printing, where his butt completely fell off. I didn't want to reprint the entire model, so I just did a small portion, and that seemed to do the job okay. So while I get to priming, who are these guys? So the 𝐂𝐭𝐳𝐴 first appeared in AD&D Monster Manual 2 in 1983. I found the art to be kind of funny. There's not much lore about them here. It mostly just says that they are dwarves with brass-colored skin and fire hair, who hail from the elemental plane of fire, and that they are generally unfriendly, but can be bribed with precious gems. And when they give their word, it holds strong. It does also briefly mention Amemon, who is the king of the 𝐂𝐭𝐳𝐴. In the 5e monster manual, it does flesh out the 𝐂𝐭𝐳𝐴 a little bit more. Probably the thing I found most interesting about them is their method of reproducing. The 𝐂𝐭𝐳𝐴 are not born, they are created. Quote, "They are each created from bronze by another 𝐂𝐵𝐴, and imbued with a portion of the crafter's inner flame," unquote. So they have a full bronze exterior, and inside, they are pure flame. I imagine the flame inside is kind of like their soul, so this obviously raises a bunch of interesting questions. If the bronze outer layer is just that, an outer layer, what would happen if the flame was released? Would the 𝐂𝐭𝐳𝐴 just become a fire elemental? Would they die? That would certainly be an interesting concept to explore in a game. Maybe an 𝐂𝐭𝐳𝐴 has broken out of its bronze layer and made its way to the material plane. The players just find its half-blown-up body, now nothing more than an empty cocoon. They are then greeted by a torrent of flame. Also, if an 𝐂𝐭𝐳𝐴 can only be created by another 𝐂𝐵𝐴, how exactly does that manifest? They each offer up a part of their soul during creation, but they are also crafted with unique features. I'm curious how different each 𝐂𝐵𝐴 actually is, and do they age? I imagine their bronze shell starts aging and turning green, but can their souls be transferred to other bodies? And what is their mental age when created? I'm also curious of the parental responsibilities of the creator. Lots and lots of questions. But that's just because it's a truly interesting concept. If I were sending my players to an 𝐂𝐵𝐴 city, or more like the 𝐂𝐵𝐴 city, because they are rather short in number, I think I'd come up with answers to all of these questions. Then the players have some interesting things to discover in the city, and hopefully a few quests can come out of it too. You're not subscribed yet? What are you doing? I know you want to follow this series, so hit that button down below. Also, I think it'd be kind of cool if, when the 𝐂𝐵𝐴 talks, its mouth doesn't move, because it's a sculpted face. Kind of like NRG from Ben 10 Ultimate Alien. So the 𝐂𝐵𝐴 are sworn enemies of the Ifrit, who are genies from the elemental plane of fire. They are also in the monster manual, but not until much later. Originally, the 𝐂𝐵𝐴 and Ifrit were allies. The 𝐂𝐵𝐴 were enlisted to construct the City of Brass, probably the most famous location in the elemental plane of fire. I wonder if it's possible that the Ifrit are the ones who created the first 𝐂𝐵𝐴, them being genies and all. But either way, once the city was finished, the Ifrit betrayed the 𝐂𝐴, attempting to enslave them to keep the city's secrets. But the 𝐂𝐵𝐴 were able to escape. They now live in a kingdom in the elemental plane of fire that closely borders the elemental plane of earth. They live at an intersection between mountains and volcanoes. They aren't at war with the Ifrit, but some squabbles do happen. Quote, "The 𝐂𝐴ZIRs believe that only the threat of them revealing the hidden ways into the city of brass keeps the Ifrit in check." Unquote. The 𝐂𝐴ZIR are also master craftsmen, maybe the best in all of D&D. One of the reasons they settled near volcanoes is so that they can harvest rare gems and valuable metals. It's those things that they value above all else. 𝐂𝐴ZIR are seldom encountered in the material plane, but when they are, it's usually because they are searching for some precious gems to use in their crafts. So that's the 𝐂𝐴ZIR, fire trapped in a metal body. But what about this paint job? I got so caught up in this creature's lore, I completely forgot to talk about it. Well, this is probably the simplest approach I've taken to a model in this series so far. Fire is always a pretty tough thing to paint, but I took a pretty straightforward approach and just painted it red first, then added some orange, then yellow as the fire rises. I'm sure there was a better way to approach it, but I think this is fairly serviceable for this monster. Now, whenever I attached the replacement piece onto his butt, I did have a little bit of super glue dripping down onto his leg. That was a bit of a problem, but I fixed it up by just painting that brown and made it look like a pouch. So, let's take a look at the final paint job. You know, my impression of the 𝐂𝐴ZIR coming into this was fairly negative. Most of that is based on the design. I've never actually stopped to read about their lore, I just find the design rather boring, I suppose. I'm sure a lot of other people do like it. It is a very subjective thing, and I don't really care for the artwork in the monster manual, so that doesn't help either. There are some cooler depictions online, and I think they look pretty cool in Baldur's Gate 3, but there's just something in the design that's lacking for me. I was pleasantly surprised by how interesting the lore was, though. There's a lot of cool stuff about these guys, and I think it'd be really fun to incorporate them into a campaign. I just think it's the design that's holding me back. I'd be very interested in a different interpretation of this type of creature, though. I like the idea of leaning more into the metal outer layer, like it's some kind of prison cell. Almost like Cybermen from Doctor Who. Maybe some alien or sci-fi elements would be cool in the design. Maybe then, I'd think about putting them in one of my games. But what do I know? I'm just some guy painting models. And I actually do like how this guy turned out. So, what do you think of the 𝐂𝐴ZIR? I'd be very interested in stories of using them in games. Next time, we'll be moving to the bees as I paint the Banshee. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Thanks for watching.